I'm getting ready to take the motor out, and I think it's the next best step. Now, one of the problems I have is this Kickstarter. Whatever ball bearing it's supposed to have in there is long gone, so that needs to be fixed. When I took the cover off for the oil pump, I'll have some photos of that, but that's got a few little problems, so I've got to order parts for that, and so that might take some time to come. The carburetor, I'll take the carburetor off to take the motor out, but I'll put that away, and that'll be a whole episode all on its own. There's a few cables and breather hoses to take off. The bash plate's got a bolt missing underneath there, so that shouldn't be a problem. The side cover here, that'll have to come off to get the motor out. I don't know what side this motor prefers to come out from, but I suspect the left, but probably the right. The gear lever looks good. The boot there's not damaged. Has a little bit of in and out movement, but that's pretty well normal. Not much up and down. That looks good. Might take the sprocket off while the motor's in the frame. Wrap the chain around there. If that's hard to undo, I don't know yet. I've also been putting penetrant oil on these things for quite a few times, because I don't want those studs to strip or snap off or just seize up and the whole lot come out. So I've been trying to soften those up for the job. The spark plug cap I'll just take off and just tuck away for now. I'm a little bit worried about the wiring harness, because you've got to put the wiring harness back exactly where it came from, and that's not always easy to do. So what I reckon I'll do with the wiring harness is, the one central point that I can see, there's two straps here. That's a metal one that's part of the frame, and one here. And there is the serial number for it. If I can recenter that when I put it all back together as being the centre, the rest should flow from there. Now, I'm going to leave the wiring harness on for now, because I'm going to take the motor out, because I just don't know what parts I'll need for rebuilding that motor and what I'll have to order and etc, etc. So at the moment I'm just preparing for taking it out. As I said, that carburetor will be a whole episode on its own. I'll just take that off, pop it in an ice cream container and deal with it later, probably when parts are arriving for the rest of the motor. But for now, let's just get all that auxiliary stuff off and get it ready. Underneath the oil side cover, it looks really nice. There's no lot of corrosion in there, but there's definitely an oil leak. I don't know if it's the drive shaft coming out or the pump shaft, but I've ordered a new pump kit, rebuild kit, so that should fix that. The side cover itself is sort of manky down the bottom where the oil's leaking, and the gasket's sort of eaten away or disappeared, so I'll have to fix it up, and it should be good. A couple of things I want to put away now. Look, I've done the side cover. I've taken it off. It's nice. It's not cracked. It's not warped, and sometimes these plastic ones warp. But one thing I did notice, and I've never noticed it before, that because it's a plastic casting, they can do whatever they want, and they've put a little ridge all the way through there. I'll cut and paste a close-up of that. Which means it's a real trick. When I clean it, I normally use these sorts of little razor blades, which meant to keep that ridge there, I've had to clean one side of the ridge off and then clean the other side of the ridge off. And I guess the reason why they do that is because these things can warp, and that little ridge there would be extra hard pushing against the motor. So I've got to preserve it. Other than that, it's just clean it off, and I cut the ridge off, and that's no good. So that was a bit of a pain to do, but anyway, it's done. A couple of good things is that the screws, there was no corrosion on the screws. They're all good. That's fine, but one thing I did notice is there is no... normally I have a plug here, and they just run a breather hose, so that inside here where the flywheel is, when it gets hot, the air can expand, and as it does, and it can go away. When it cools down, it can suck air in, and it's fine. But it's, as far as I can tell, it's completely sealed. I cannot find a spot where the air is going to for expansion and contraction, and I'll splice in a bit of photo of the bike and how it looks there. But yeah, look, it's not rusted in there, so it all looks good, but I've got to find how it deals with that, because that's unusual that it doesn't have a breather hose. So that's going away. My starter, I'm very happy with this, the Kickstarter. Normally these Kickstarters, they can, when you take them out, when you go, whoops, that goes that way, when you kick them out like that, they wear and they slowly spin around more and more and more and more like this. And when you've got a high compression motor, your foot can slip off and it causes all sorts of problems. So the first thing you want to look at is, how is that metal there? Is that still a straight line? And do I have to weld it up to build it up to make it sit square and stuff like that? But it is nearly brand new. There's no noticeable wear on there. This all looks good. So maybe that double head gasket lower compression has just saved it from wear. But you know how I said before that the Kickstarter just sort of lollies around like that? When I pulled it apart, I found the spring. The spring was in there okay, but no ball bearing. So now I've got to wait for a 6mm ball bearing so I can just put the thing back together. But that's okay. Once I get the 6mm ball bearing, it'll just go back together. Splines are beautiful, like just fantastic. And the spline on this is beautiful. The whole thing, just undid it and just doop, 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 off it comes. Very nice. So that's all ready to go. Don't need to do anything about rust with that. It just will not rust away in 10 lifetimes. Don't need to do anything about rust with that one. It won't rust away in 20 lifetimes. So these hoses, I can reuse those. So I've just marked what they are. That's good like that. So, and also when I took it apart, the sprocket is brand new. It's never been used, and this parts are all good. So that's just going to get tagged and put away as well. So the next bit is to work on the motor. We'll start to work on the motor.